Hello and welcome. This is the Paul Ryder Tapes. I'm Angela Smith. I'm the ex-wife of Paul Ryder. As everybody knows, he passed away tragically in July of 2022. But in the months leading up to his death, he sat down with me and we spent hours and hours recording his life story. We had no idea that he was going to die so soon, and literally we finished recording this podcast 12 days before he died. Coming up in this episode...
It must have been a Thursday night, 8 years old, and David Bowie comes on, doing Starman with a big blue acoustic guitar. I'd never seen a blue guitar before in my life, and he looked like he'd stepped out of another world. And it was like, my life changed at that moment.
We were watching the gig at the arena, and then all of a sudden I said to you, "Oh, it's raining in."
Yeah.
And it wasn't raining in. It was something very nasty.
Yeah. What?
Well, we were down below and it's somebody up above. Couldn't be bothered going to the toilet.
Go to the toilet.
Just got a shiver down my spine there. He's fucking here, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is.
Oh, just got all really cold shivers. Oh, that's fucking weird.
Really?
Oh.
Right, go on, start. Getting grilled off my ex-wife for a podcast.
Okay, are we ready? Are we recording already? Okay. We don't need... Do we need a disclaimer at the beginning? We don't, do we? Are we going to be talking about, like... Are we going to be using naughty words and talking about sex? Because if so, we have to do a disclaimer. Should we just do one anyway, just in case?
Do one because I'm a swearer.
All right, so... warning, this podcast may involve some naughty words and maybe some talk about drugs, maybe some graphic talk about drug use, and maybe a bit of sex, actually. Let's be honest. I mean, come on, you've not led exactly a monk-style life, have you? So, okay, warning, this podcast might not be suitable for everybody. And I find, actually, when we do announcements like that at the beginning, it means more people want to listen anyway.
Oh, that sounds good. But okay. I'm definitely a swearer, so I'm glad you've done a disclaimer.
All right, brilliant. So, welcome to the Paul Ryder podcast.
Hi.
No, I wasn't saying welcome to you. I was saying welcome to the listeners.
Oh, welcome, listeners.
So, this is the Paul Ryder podcast with Paul Ryder, who is the bass player of the Happy Mondays. I said that wrong because it's not the Happy Mondays, is it? It's just Happy Mondays.
It's just Happy Mondays.
Yes. And me, Angela Smith, who's actually the ex-wife of said Paul Ryder, bass player of the Happy Mondays. And the reason that we're doing this is because Paul, for a long, long time, has been saying, I need to write a book, I need to write a book, I need to write a book. But he doesn't actually like writing. So I suggested that instead of him actually writing a book, he could talk a book in a podcast. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, but you'll have to ask me questions. I was like, right, well, I can do that. So that's why we're here. Mm-hmm. So what is it that makes you feel like you need to write a book?
Well, there's been a lot of rumours, exaggeration, stuff that's been made up. There's a lot of stuff to put right. Okay. And I think it's time.
Time to set the record straight.
Like, one big thing is that we didn't send factory records under. The Mondays never did that. Factory went bust, owing us nearly £1 million.
Really? I never knew that.
Yeah, 800,000.
Really? Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Later on, because I think what we're going to do is talk chronologically from the very beginning. We want all the details, all the micro details of your life and story, and the real truth about the story of the Mondays, what really happened, who the characters in the Mondays really are, and all those legends and myths that people have seen in movies. We want to know which bits are true and which aren't, because we know that a lot of it's based on truth, but there's also some exaggeration.
A lot of exaggeration.
So this is really where you're going to get the real truth about the story of the Happy Mondays.
Yeah, if you want to know the truth, keep listening.
We're going to be talking about some sensitive topics. We're going to be talking about drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's been very vocal about his struggle with addiction, and I have been at the sharp end of that. So
Oh, yes, you was.
I know.
Have I made amends for that yet?
I don't think you've fully made it. Do you think you ever can? So we're going to be talking about drug addiction. We're going to be talking about all the various ways and things you did to try and combat your drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about infidelity.
Oh.
This is revenge time for me, isn't it? We're going to be talking about children. We're going to be talking about our son who had cancer and had an extraordinary journey with that. But really, more than anything else, we're going to be talking about the Happy Mondays. And
You did it again, you said that.
I know, I'm sorry. It's a really hard word. It's a hard name to not put a "the" in front of, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've always thought that.
Yeah. You can say that if you want, I don't mind.
Okay. In fact, we're going to jump to... We will go to the very beginning in a second, but there's been a huge legal battle over who owns the name and who came up with the name, and lots of people have different opinions about that. So do you want to start off by absolutely putting the record straight about who came up with the name and what happened?
I came up with the name, me, and it came about through an Echo and the Bunnymen song, The Cutter. There's a line in there that says, "By the happy loss," and we was called The Happy Loss for like 4 days.
I never knew that.
Yeah, but we kept the word happy, and for some reason I changed it to Mondays. Instead of The Happy Loss, it became Happy Mondays.
And is that like a nod and a wink to the fact that you don't have to do a boring day job so that you don't dread Monday anymore?
Oh, I never thought of it like that.
Really, all these years, that's why I thought the band was called that, because suddenly you get to be happy on a Monday.
It's all down to Ian McCulloch.
I love Ian McCulloch.
I blame Ian McCulloch.
I've been playing the Echo and the Bunnymen on repeat for the last 3 months when I drive. It's weird. I've
Love the Bunnymen.
rediscovered them again.
I saw them last year. They was playing the same festival as the Mondays.
Yeah.
And it was great. I stood at the side of the stage and watched the Bunnymen.
Nice.
Incredible.
Yeah, Ian McCulloch's still got it.
Yeah,
hasn't
Gaz
he?
said to him, "Best band in the world," and McCulloch turned around and said, "I know."
Did he?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, so let's go right back to the very beginning. There have been lots of things written about you growing up homeless in Wythenshawe and various things. So you were born in
64.
Okay, you were born in 64.
Mine's in Salford.
Okay, what kind of house did you grow up in?
It was... there was houses that was built, made into an estate for the Salford slum clearance. When it was clearing all the slums of Salford and putting people in council houses that was just freshly been built in the late 50s. So it was a council estate, and everybody had come from Salford, at the middle of Salford, to a place called Little Hulton, where it used to be farmland, and they built all these huge estates for the Salford overspill. And my grandparents got a house there, and I was born in that house on Coniston Avenue.
You were actually born at home?
Yeah.
Was that like a planned... Because that was pretty radical in those days to be born at home.
Well, my mum had Shaun at home as well, same house. We were both born in the same house.
Why did she decide to have you at home?
I've no idea. I don't know.
We need to ask her, don't we?
We need to ask her, yeah. We'll make sure that's the first question.
Well, in those days, they didn't let fathers at the birth. And Derek wanted to be there with both of them. And I absolutely horrified my mother. "No, I'm not having that," she said, "unless you come to my house and have them." So we had our own house near Bolton. My mum lived in Little Holton at the time before she moved here. And so nearly 3 weeks before they were both born, we went and stayed at my mother's so Derek could be at the birth of both of them.
That's pretty radical, though, for the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, everyone else had babies in hospitals in those days.
Yeah, you had to go into hospital, but I suppose it was pretty kind of radical.
Yeah. So you were living with your parents and your grandparents when you were born?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I'm learning things too. I really didn't know that. Right.
Yeah, all on Coniston Avenue in a little 3-bedroom house.
And was it a nice house?
It was a lovely house, yeah. It was brand new. They'd just been built. They'd come out of the slums of Salford into this brand new house with a garden at the front and a garden at the back. And it was... and it had running hot water with a bathroom.
Wow. What's your earliest memory?
I have an early memory of lying on the couch with my dad, and I must have been 5 years old, and we was watching Batman and Robin. We was watching Batman, and after Batman had finished, it was the news, and the news played Penny Lane by the Beatles and shown a video, and I remember that.
Wow.
I remember seeing Penny Lane and Batman on the same night.
Tell us a bit about your parents.
Yeah.
Back in those days.
Back in those days, my mum always worked as a infant school teacher for 5-year-olds. She had when he first got to school at the age of 4, 5. She had the class for the newcomers.
Right.
And she went through a whole career doing that.
So all through the days, the Mondays, all through you growing up, your mum was working?
She was working, yeah.
Okay. And what about your dad?
My dad, my grandfather got him a job on the papers, newspapers. I think it was the Daily Express, which was in Ancoats in Manchester. So my dad was working there when I was born.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he went on to work at the post office, is that right?
Then he went, he had a couple of other jobs in between, working at a print works, doing printing ink for the newspapers. But he eventually ended up at the post office when I was about 8, 9, something like that. And he was there until the day we said to him, "Pack your job in, Dan, come with us."
Yeah. Didn't he also have a fish and chip shop?
Don't mention the chip shop.
Anything that could go wrong did go wrong.
The first day in, Derek pulled the cash drawer out and broke his foot.
The freezer broke, so all the fish went bad.
The woman gave us a number to phone if anything went wrong with the fridge. I phoned this number. The man had been dead 5 years that serviced it.
It was an end terrace. The house was an end terrace, so there's a big gable end wall. People used to kick the ball at it. And he looked out the window one day, so he was kicking the ball, and the ball went straight through and into glass in his eyes, and another disaster.
Then, after that, he'd not shut the door properly on the potato machine that peeled the potatoes, and the door flew open. There was a big stone in that looked like a potato and hit Derek in the eye, and he had a big black eye and a big bruise.
And then he went out to, one day he went out to do the potatoes to make them into chips and got stung by a wasp and collapsed on the floor and turned green. He was allergic to wasp stings.
Oh, wow.
So they just about got him to hospital in time before he died of... Before he died of a wasp sting. Wow. I think that was the final straw. They just put it up for sale, and that's when he went. That's when he went to the post office. Okay. After the fish and chip shop.
But Derek's life was. He didn't only have a regular job, did he? He had. I think maybe you and your brother inherited your musical talent from your dad. Tell us about that.
Well, he started off in folk bands. Doing folk music, in particular, folk club every Sunday night in I think it was in the Stocks pub in Walkden. They had a folk club every Sunday night. So he started off being in a folk band, eventually left that and formed a comedy duo with Barry Seddon, who was also in the folk band. So they went off and then ended up doing the working men's clubs for years. You know, so the postman job was perfect for him. You know, he'd be finished by 12 in the afternoon.
So he was singing and telling jokes at the same time, kind of thing.
Yeah, when they formed the comedy duo.
What was it called?
Derek and Barry Harry, the non-identical twins.
Derek and Barry. Who's Barry Harry?
Barry's Barry Seddon. No,
and who's Harry?
That's just made up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And his favourite joke was, Barry was the first test tube baby. His birth sign is Pyrex the dish.
Really?
Terrible joke, but I love it.
Are there any more?
Oh, I've got a CD's worth of jokes.
Really?
We had it transferred when he died. He got it transferred onto a disc. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
One of his concerts.
Oh, brilliant.
I think it's at Lee Working Men's Club or something like that.
That'd be excellent. Oh, we need to... Maybe we can put a clip into this, actually. That might be a good idea.
That'd be
Should
good.
we do that?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Never mind Patrick Steptoe and all that crap in Oakland. Barry was the world's first test tube baby, 19 years ago. In fact, his birth sign is Pyrex the dish.
When the Mondays was taking off, my dad had to decide what he wanted to do, whether he was going to stick with Barry and do the working men's clubs, or whether he was going to come with his two boys. And he came with us and went on the journey with us.
I mean, that was amazing. My first memory of the first time I met you, your dad was the tour manager, and he was just this really cool guy with a really long ponytail at the back of his head, but he was bald.
Bald on top, yeah.
Yeah, and he was only about 5'1", wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a terribly big guy.
Yeah. But you always got the impression that he was like totally proud and totally in his element.
Oh, he was. He loved it, yeah. He loved... he did something with my speakers and my Ampeg cabs. He took the speakers out that it came with and put JBLs in there, so it sounded phenomenal. He was always doing little things like that to make us sound better.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a very proud man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna cry? No, I loved Degsy. He was.
Yeah, it's
cool.
very small but very, very strong, like Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about him was that he really fitted in with the vibe of the band. It wasn't like your dad breathing down your neck. He was kind of one of the lads as well, wasn't he?
He was one of the lads, yeah.
And the crew adored him, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. Gaz Whelan says that he grew up with my dad more than he did with his dad.
Right.
He was around at a critical age.
Right.
So
he was on the road with him.
Yeah, so Gaz sees him as a father figure as well.
Yeah.
Or saw him as a father figure.
Yeah. Gaz Whelan's the drummer of the Mondays, and he's known Derek since he was 15.
Oh, Derek did everything. If it wasn't for Derek, we wouldn't have done anything. He brought the PA in. When we got a proper crew and he got on board with the crew, he was great, yeah. He was, but early on, he had to, he was one in charge of everything, had to keep us in control. But and we used to make fun of him sometimes, and he used to just ignore us and get on with it. But if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have left the rehearsal room. And I said, luckily, before he died, the last time I saw him, I went around and I said to him, I just said, thanks, without you, we wouldn't have got anywhere.
What about this? I know he made a lot of sacrifices to actually get you to the point where you were a band that was often touring. Tell me about that.
Oh, my poor mum, she never got a built-in wardrobes.
Oh.
All the money went on equipment for the band.
I always wanted fitted wardrobes. And every time we'd save the money up for fitted wardrobes, Derek would buy some other equipment for them. And I had to wait till 4 years ago when I moved here to get me fitted wardrobes, and they were already in the bungalow. But I got them eventually, but then fitted wardrobes have gone out of fashion, haven't they?
What, so everything he earned he put into the band for you and Shaun?
Yeah, he bought a PA system so we could rehearse properly. He bought me a bass for my 21st birthday. It was either, do you want a party or do you want a bass guitar? And it was like, oh, bass guitar, definitely. And he's... him and Phil Sachs, who was the Monday's first proper manager, they used to pay for our rehearsal rooms.
Wow.
Yeah, every week it would be, one week my dad would pay, next week Phil would pay, which was great because we moved from rehearsing in a school in Swinton into a proper rehearsal room, where we could go and hang out all day.
We'll be right back, continuing the conversation after these quick few messages from our sponsors. From the same company that brought you this series, there are 3 new podcasts that we strongly recommend. The first one is a true crime series called Framed for Murder, The Case of Matthew Turner. It's a really harrowing and quite intriguing true crime series about a guy who's now 32 years old, and he spent the last 14 years in prison for a crime that all the evidence suggests he did not commit. The series, available as a podcast or on video, follows his legal team as they reinvestigate the case and fight for his exoneration in real time. If you're a true crime fan, it's absolutely not to be missed. Paul Ryder himself watched the trailer for this series just before he passed away and vowed to support the efforts to exonerate Matthew. On a totally different note, we've got a podcast about online dating called Accidentally MILF, Online Dating Adventures After 50 with Angel Bliss. The podcast has already won 9 awards, and if you listen to it, you'll understand why. Oh my goodness, the scrapes and the stories that are told in this podcast are absolutely hilarious. It is brilliant fun and is highly, highly recommended. And another one we recommend you check out is called Soul Bear Sessions, Where Mama At, which is the incredible true life story of Terence Holloway. He spent his childhood on the run from a drug gang with his mum. He ended up becoming a rap star and then many years later discovered that his mother was homeless on the streets of Los Angeles. So he made himself homeless in a bid to try and find her. Really incredible story. Definitely recommend you check that one out. So tell me about the very first incarnation of the band. Like, what kind of music were you into at the time when you were about to form the Mondays? What were you listening to?
Oh, I suppose the current stuff was back to the Bunnymen. Echo and the Bunnymen, New Order. I really liked Orange Juice. Remember them?
Yeah,
loved
love
them.
Orange Juice.
Loved
yeah.
all that postcard record label stuff. I had a nice big collection of postcard records.
I remember you telling me a story about seeing David Bowie on Top of the Pops.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, I've read recently, I know about 5 other people that saw that clip at Top of the Pops when I was 8 years old.
Tell me about it.
And it changed their life. One of them was Will Sargent from the Bunnymen. He was talking in an interview about the same time and the same show as I was watching when I was 8 years old. I always had Top of the Pops on Thursdays. So it must have been a Thursday night, 8 years old, and David Bowie comes on doing Starman with a big blue acoustic guitar. I'd never seen a blue guitar before in my life, and he looked like he'd stepped out of another world. And it was like my life changed at that moment.
How?
I wanted to know where he was from and how he got on Top of the Pops, and did he write the song? And I was just curious.
And what did it make you feel like? What did it make you think that you needed to do?
That I wanted to do something like that.
Right, so you wanted to be a pop star, or he's more than a pop star, isn't he?
I just wanted to be on Top of the Pops, I think.
Hey, but you achieved that, didn't you?
Of course I did, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be on Top of the Pops like David Bowie doing Starman.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big impact at 8 years old seeing that.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, it's like he'd come from another world.
So at that point you would be at primary school.
Yeah.
So tell me about primary school, what that was like.
Primary, you know, all my school days were like, I only went for the social aspect.
Carl Williams was Paul's best friend in primary school.
Well, he was a good-looking kid, you see, so I never had a girlfriend at school. But Paul had a girlfriend all the time. All the girls was after him, so I used to go to their houses with him, you know, as a mate, just to like, and so yeah, he always had the girls after him. Always had a girlfriend. You know, he was like, he had the olive skin, he was a good-looking one, you see.
Paul's mum actually taught at Paul and Shaun's primary school.
They were as different as chalk and cheese, but they were very, very close when they were little. Funnily enough, that would be Sandra. Come and say hello to Angela.
Where are you, Linda?
I'm in the front room.
Oh,
Say hello to Angela.
What did you say, Pew as well?
No, I'm being interviewed. The year I took Paul to school with me, Shaun was starting school, and it got to dinner time, and I said, right, I've got to go in the staff room now, but will you go outside and play with the other children? No, we'll wait at the door for you. And there was square tiles on the floor, and we stood holding hands in these square tiles. And I said, well, I'm going in the staff room to have my lunch. We'll wait here. And they never budged. They were still stood on the same tiles holding hands 3/4 of an hour later when I got back.
Wasn't really into learning stuff, although, I learned to read and write. But I was just more about enjoying the day with my mates at school. I hated mathematics, hated stuff like that. Wasn't very academic.
He was never confident. He was always... Veronica used to say, as a young child, the trouble with your Paul, he just does enough to keep his head. He was a very clever lad, but she said he just does enough to keep his head above the water.
Linda's been friends with Sandra for more than 30 years, and Sandra also happens to be the mum of Gaz Whelan, the Mondays drummer.
Hey, me and Linda could write a book about these tours, couldn't we?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, hey.
Okay, well, tell me.
No, we can't say anything now. So
Oh, do you remember Birmingham?
I was on Friday nights. Stays on
Yeah,
Friday
but
nights.
do you remember Birmingham? Oh, we nearly died. Literally.
No, but I always said to you that you're very bright and very intelligent, but you've just not had a great education. That's my take on you. Like, you've got the basics in, like you've got that basic intelligence and sense of humour, but you obviously didn't really. You didn't go to school though from being about 14, did you?
No, I had a job. So when I was 13, that's when I started wagging school. Wagging school is like skipping school. And it was one afternoon, 3 of us, I think it was Paddy Newman and Patrick O'Reilly and me, went to Madchester on a bus instead of going to school. And I went round all the shops, clothes shops, asking if they had Saturday jobs. And I got one in this really good clothes shop, round the corner from the shop that I really wanted to work in, because that had all the cool, real cool stuff in called Gowns Gear. And I got a job round the corner from that. So at 13, I had this Saturday job. By the time I was 14, I wasn't going into school much. I was going working.
Did your mum know?
No, nobody knew.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she not wonder where you were getting all your money from?
No, and the clothes. I was on a scam with the clothes. It was quite easy to hide stuff round the back of the shop and go back for it after the shop had closed.
Oh.
And I was selling, and when I did go in school, I had a big bag of clothes to sell.
Oh, wow.
So,
You're admitting to a criminal offence there, you do realise that?
I think it's way past.
Is it the stuff of urban legend?
Urban legend, yeah. None of this is true. Yeah, instead of going to school, I was going to work.
Yeah.
We were in this hotel, and we could see the arena over there, and we were here. And there was this great big hedge, and we were going to have to walk all the way round.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd climb this hedge.
Well, you know, we can't do anything. I mean, we're going back a long time, but we weren't very athletic then.
No,
was
but
really?
we were a lot more agile.
Oh, yeah.
So we're climbing the hedge, and we got on top with our legs over each side.
I was the best salesman on Saturday. I won every week. Every week I got the best salesman.
And what was the trick?
The trick was not to pester them, just to give them space.
Really?
Yeah.
And did you flatter them and tell them things looked good even if they didn't?
Oh, yeah.
You would?
Yeah, of course I would.
Well, even if it didn't look nice, you would say, oh, that looks really great on you.
I would say it looks great.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I got sales. But the trick is not to go up and say, can I help you, can I help you, can I help you, can I get you this, get it? Just say, I'm here if you need any help, and give them space, and they'll always come.
I believe you didn't ever really come home with much money, though, is that right?
No, I usually spent it on clothes.
Yeah.
I got paid in one hand and gave it back in the other hand.
And then took loads of clothes home.
But I did get lots of clothes.
Yeah.
When we realised if we'd have dropped, we'd have been right inside a dam. It was a massive, big lake.
We were stupid, being clever, taking a shortcut.
Yeah. So we had to get our leg over quick and get back down.
Oh, you did, definitely.
Yeah, and get back down and walk round.
I've been doing this nearly 40 years.
Wow.
About 38 years.
And you're at the same high school as Shaun? Yeah.
Yes, he was 3 years above me at school. So when I was a little first year, he was already a big third year.
Right.
You know, and when you're young like that, there's a big age difference.
Right. How was it growing up until the point you were at high school? What was your relationship with him like?
With
up
Shaun?
Until age 11, yeah.
Pretty good. Although he was a bit of a bully. I've said that before. You know, I used to suffer from asthma, and he'd sit on my chest till I turned blue. You know, yeah, that type of thing. Nice brother. But you know, it's like we got on great. We got on great unless he was being a bully.
But I should have seen the state of it, yeah.
So we were there, and then we were watching the gig at the arena, and then all of a sudden I said to you, "Oh, it's raining in."
Yeah.
And it wasn't raining in. It was something very nasty.
Yeah.
What?
Well, we were down below, and it's somebody up above. Couldn't be bothered going to the toilet.
Couldn't go to the toilet.
Oh, we had to get out of the way quick, didn't we?
Yeah.
What kind of things did you do when you were getting on great? Like,
Probably playing records.
really?
Yeah. We always got records on a Saturday afternoon with our bands. So I'd be back home and playing records. We'd go round to my Auntie Mary's house, where Matt and Pat Carroll lived.
They're the designers that designed all the iconic Mondays covers.
Yeah, the Central Station design is Matt, Pat and Karen. But we'd go around to their house with our records, and they'd play their records. So it was like, it was a record fest.
We'll be back really soon after these quick messages from our sponsors. Isn't it great when you get together with friends and family that you haven't seen for a long time? Well, I know the perfect spot if you're looking for somewhere to gather with your friends or family to celebrate a birthday or an anniversary, or just getting together for the sake of it. It's a beautiful chateau in rural France. It's got an outdoor heated pool and 5 acres of grounds to get lost in. It's on the edge of a pretty little village and just 15 minutes from the coast. It sleeps up to 26 people. It has 11 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, 5 living rooms, 3 kitchens, 5 acres of grounds and that beautiful heated pool. It's 2.5 hours to London or 2.5 hours to Paris, on the edge of a forest in the pretty rural village of Grandcourt in Normandy. Weekends start from as little as £40 per person per night. Find out more details at francechateauforrent.com. That's francechateauforrent.com for your next big family and friends gathering. And it also happens to be the place where Paul Ryder himself once lived. Au revoir, mes amis. And what were these records? Which ones?
Oh, definitely lots of Bowie, Roxy Music. I'm sure I had a Status Quo record as well somewhere.
Which one?
Caroline.
Really?
Yeah, I bought that with my spends.
The Sweet. I was into
Sweet,
the Sweet.
yeah,
Donny
Sweet.
Osmond, David Cassidy. You wouldn't have liked
Wouldn't
them,
have
would
had
you?
Donny and David, no. But definitely the Sweet. Slade.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely had some Slade. And you could buy these Top of the Pops albums.
Oh, Oh, yeah, with the like, snide artists.
Yeah,
They were
the
really
cover
bad,
versions.
though. Well, they were terrible, but they were so cheap.
Yeah.
Get them at Woolworths.
Get them
they
at
were
Woolworths
79
for-
pence, weren't they?
We got the same one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had loads
Got
of
it
them.
home and put it on and thought, there's something
Doesn't
wrong with the
sound
song. Then worked out it was cover versions.
Do you remember that they then started doing 20 fantastic hits by the original artists?
Yes.
Volume 1, 2. I've got volumes 2 and 3 of those. That was my introduction to music. Same era.
What
as
year
you.
was that then?
I would have been about 11, so you would have been about 9 maybe.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah.
That's
And
about
it was
right.
like T-Rex the Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I was into
Slade.
Fleetwood Mac around that
Oh
time.
my God, he was into Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, that album is phenomenal. What's it called? What's that album called? Rumours. Rumours by Fleetwood Mac.
That was later than...
No, it wasn't. I got that when I was at school.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
brilliant album. So what music would you say influenced you in terms of, oh, I want to be like them, or I want to be as good as them, or... What about you? You've not mentioned funk.
Funk came a bit later.
Disco as well. It was the whole disco era.
Disco and punk and good funk came around at the same time of probably 76. Yeah, definitely 76, especially in New York where the punk scene was kind of born at the same time as disco.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people was either you're a punk or you're into disco. One or the other, but I was into both. I was into music no matter what it was.
In the house that we lived in then, it had warm air, central heating. And there was like ducts in the wall with vents. And the two of them, whenever they didn't want me and Derek to listen to what they were saying, they'd give each other the nod and go upstairs. But what they didn't realise, when they were talking, it acted as a tannoy, and we could hear it coming out of the heating vents, every word that they said. Well, this particular day, Paul came in with something under his arm, and Shaun said, "What's he got?" I said, "I don't know." Anyway, we soon found out he'd bought, because in his bedroom, Derek had built this unit for him, and he had his hi-fi and his stereo and his speakers and his woofers and tweeters or whatever you called them, all set up.
What about Motown as well?
Motown, yeah. That goes back to going back round to my Auntie Mary's, and they had a collection of Motown singles.
Marvin Gaye.
Oh yeah, Temptations.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye.
You said that the very first time I interviewed you. You said you were into the Temptations. That was in 1991. And you also said that you listened to Lionel Richie on Radio 1. Do you remember When a Child is Born?
No,
remember
not
that?
Ryan, not Lionel. It was.
All these years I've thought that was Lionel Richie.
Google it.
All right, hang on.
What's his name? Let's see if I can beat Google. Johnny Mathis. I'm going to admit I actually bought When a Child is Born.
Nice song.
It's a good song. It
It's a
stood
really
the test
nice
of
song.
time every Christmas.
Yeah.
So this particular day had not been upstairs long when we heard this music, and we heard "A Child is Born," and it was Johnny Mathis. He'd bought the record because he liked him, but he didn't want us to laugh at him, and he was singing along with Johnny Mathis. But what he didn't realise, it was booming out of the central heating system.
So, tell me about high school. You were in 2 years below Shaun, so was it kind of uncool for him to hang out with you because you were too young?
Yeah, by the time I got to secondary school, Shaun had gone into the other half of the school, so we were separated. We didn't see each other at playgrounds or dinner because he was older, so I didn't really see much of him at school. I did get quite a few times off teachers, "Oh, so you're Shaun Ryder's brother, are you?" He kind of made a name for himself as being the class clown. He was very funny.
Yeah.
He was a very funny class clown.
And what did people expect from you as a result of that?
Probably to be as boisterous as him, but I'm very quiet compared to Shaun.
Yeah, I mean, you're two completely different personalities, aren't you? Just tell us
Yeah.
a bit more about the differences between the two of you.
He's very outspoken. He's very narcissistic. It's all about Shaun, Shaun, Shaun. And I think people thought I was going to be much more like that at school,
Yeah.
you know, but they soon discovered I was the quiet one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you share the same friend group outside of school?
Only cousins. We'd always go around to cousins at the same time, but he had his friends, I had my friends. You know.
And the two didn't mix?
No, because when you're that age, that 3-year age gap is massive.
It wasn't 3 years, it's 19 months.
19 months
Between you.
2
It's only a
years.
year and a half.
Oh, yeah, still a big difference.
But it's 2 school years,
Two
so that's
school
pretty
years.
huge, isn't it?
Yeah. So no, I had my own mates, he had his mates, and we didn't really mix.
I asked Gaz Whelan, the drummer with the Mondays, what he thought about how different the brothers were.
No, they are different, but they're also very similar. It's like me and Paul are very, very different, but really similar. I mean, you know, literally, I know that this sounds really cheesy and cliche, but we could almost read each other's minds. We'd finish each other's sentences, and I'd know what he was thinking. He'd know what I was thinking. We'd say things to each other and burst out laughing. So, and I know this sounds really cliche, and it sounds, you know, because he's gone now and all that, but he was like a brother to me. He was like I have an older brother and older sister, so he was like an older brother to me. He really was.
Do you think that if there hadn't been that sibling rivalry, that the Mondays would have had many more albums and been more productive and had more output?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's many number of things why we didn't. You know, we all blame each other, and we were all to blame, every one of us. I'd like to talk more about it, because it's been quite cathartic, that. I feel just got a shiver down my spine there. He's fucking here, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is.
Just got all really cold shivers. Oh, that's fucking weird.
Really?
Oh, it's boiling in here.
Okay.
Honestly, that is fucking weird. Oh, it's not going either. Oh, that's not going. Oh, that's very strange. Oh, fucking hell, my heart's going now. Oh, that's very weird. You know, you get cold shivers, they last for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very weird, that. My heart's going now. That's fucking weird, that. That was very weird. Fucking hell, right, I'm going to go. I need a pint.
All right. Thanks, Gaz.
Let's speak again, please, Andrew. Let's speak again. I think someone loads more anecdotes and things about it. I want to speak about him a bit more.
So what was your vision for yourself when you were still at school? Like most people from where we come from, like towns probably 3 or 4 miles from each other.
Yeah.
Most of the people I was at school with aspired to staying where they were, getting married, having kids, and getting a regular job. And
Yeah.
Where did you see your future at that point? Did you think you'd end up living where you were born, or moving away, or what was?
I nearly got sucked into that mentality. I got a proper job at the post office when I was 16, and a girlfriend, and we got engaged at 19. You know, and that was the plan. You get your job, you get your girlfriend, you get engaged, get married, get a house, have a family. And then I realised that I didn't want to do that. I still wanted to be on top of the pops.
The day that Paul said he wanted to start a band, the very same day, Shaun had been to see David Essex in That'll Be the Day, and he came in and said, I want to start a band. I want to be in That'll Be the Day like David Essex. And Paul said, oh, that's funny that, because I've decided I want to be in a band today. I just thought they were doing it to keep themselves occupied and just entertain themselves.
Ah, so you never forgot that dream?
Never forgot that dream.
Did you ever share that with your fiancée, that dream?
No, not at all. It was just kept in my own head.
Somebody came to the house to teach him the bass. We found him a tutor. And then after that, he said, I don't want him to come anymore, because like Derek with the piano, when the piano teacher told his mother, he was putting things in that wasn't in the sheet music. Well, Paul had started putting his own twiddly bits in.
Do you know what changed it all? Smoking weed.
Really?
Yeah. it kind
You
of...
don't smoke weed now at all, do you?
Not
Living in California, you don't smoke weed.
I know, not since Iceland, when we went in the Blue Lagoon.
Really? That's the last
That
time
was the
you
last
smoked?
time I smoked a weed.
And why did you stop? Isn't it funny how they say a weed in England? Smoked a weed.
A weed.
Here it's some weed. So why did you stop at that particular point?
Because typical addict behaviour, I overdid it, and it sent me paranoid.
In Iceland, you were paranoid.
No, smoking weed.
Right, but why was Iceland the last time that you ever did it?
Because I felt like I got cured in the Blue Lagoon.
You've never told me this before.
No.
You felt like you got cured of what?
Smoking.
Really?
Smoking, yeah,
In
not
the Blue
cigarettes, but that was the last time I smoked.
Shaun asked for drums. Oh my God. No way.
I think we need to explain the relevance of this.
Yeah, go
so
on.
we met on that trip in Iceland when I was working for MTV, and I was sent to do a piece on you, on the band doing a gig in Iceland.
That's right.
And that's where we very first met.
And you was the first one to put the Mondays on MTV.
I think so.
Yeah.
Crash Bang Wallet.
Well, it was just before you were kind of famous in Europe, wasn't it? It was when you'd released the Hallelujah EP.
I think all the road knew about it.
And I remember we filmed the gig, and we made a live video of the gig to the Hallelujah EP, because I don't think there'd been a video done at that point.
No, I don't think so, no.
But I know that we put that out. And I remember meeting you. I remember when we got to Iceland and you had a massive entourage of crew.
Yeah.
And we were at the airport, and I thought, oh, we need a shot of the band leaving the airport. But you'd all got on the bus by then.
We had weefers, twitters, or whatever you call them, twerpers.
I was like, we need this shot. We need to establish you arriving in Iceland. But the really embarrassing thing was I didn't know who was in the band and who was in the crew. And I knew that if I got on the bus and said, can we have the band... And let the band know, let the crew know that I didn't know who was in the band and who wasn't, I'd have had half the crew instead of the band pretending to be in the band. So I had to come up with a really clever way of working out who was in the band and who wasn't, and navigating my way through that.
I was just glad then that Shaun got fed up and decided he thinks he'll be a singer.
How did you do that? I don't remember.
I think I literally just said, can we have the band? Just hoping that they didn't realise that I didn't know exactly who was who. And so you all... And that was probably the first time we saw each other.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a shot of you all walking out of the airport and getting onto the bus. And this was Rowetta wasn't involved at that point, was she? She wasn't on that trip.
No, she wasn't.
As far as I remember.
Yeah, so we mustn't have done Step On.
No, it was before Step On. This was Hallelujah.
Right.
It was before Pills and Thrills.
Oh, right, yeah, she definitely wasn't with us then.
So then we filmed you coming out of the airport, and I remember I was with my friend Laura, who was my PA. I was directing, and we were there for 2 nights. We were like, oh, we're going to be partying. It's the Happy Mondays, and you'd flown directly from Amsterdam to Iceland, and you'd all been so wrecked in Amsterdam that you all went to bed early the first night. We were like, what? These are meant to be the party animals. And it just didn't happen. And then the next night, I remember you making eyes at me from there was some stairs in the hotel. I remember you like staring at me a bit too long. I was like, oh, I think he's looking at me. And then the gig was the following night.
That's right.
I remember you being really nice backstage. We were in the dressing room filming, and I remember Bez was limbering up to hot chocolate.
Right.
He was literally doing exercises with hot chocolate in the dressing room on full blast. And then you were really attentive and making sure we had drinks and like being nice to us.
Oh.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And then we filmed the gig, and do you remember Bez threw up on the cameraman's shoes? I think he'd had like a few too many E's or something.
Yeah.
And he literally threw up while the cameraman was on stage filming the drummer, filming Gaz.
I had no idea.
Bez threw up on my shoes.
Yeah, that was quite a bad trip, to say the least, you know what I mean? And the funny thing was, they had a warehouse party in a warehouse full of stock, And obviously, I had loads of mants in there, like, oh, fucking hell, I'll have these, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And, yeah, it was like a miniature crime spree went on at the time as well.
So anyway, we met in Iceland, and you did some more filming at the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah, it's a great trip swimming at the Blue Lagoon. It was one of those memorable, gigs, you know what I mean? A weekend in where was it? Reykjavik, yeah.
And that's when I went into this Blue Lagoon, covered myself with this white sand.
Mud, wasn't it?
White mud, yeah. And when I came out, I felt all cleansed, and I never touched a joint again.
Yeah, but you touched a few other things.
So, yeah, I touched a hell of a lot more, but I never smoked weed after that.
I never knew that. I never knew that. 17 years and I never knew that.
You didn't know it?
No. You always told me that you didn't smoke it since you were in the Caribbean, I think.
No, it was Iceland.
Wow.
Because I was typical addict, like I say. I was just doing it I couldn't get out of bed without a joint. Couldn't go to bed without one. Couldn't get dressed without one.
Wow.
Couldn't go out of the house unless I had a joint. It just took over everything.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how odd then that it probably saved your son's life a few years later.
I know.
But we'll come to that.
We'll come to that
in a little bit.
So yeah, I was going down the path of girlfriend, job, mortgage, marriage, and then I discovered marijuana, and it kind of opened my mind a bit, expanded it, and it was like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing, you know, I want to do something different. Still wanted to travel, still wanted to be on top of the pops.
Right.
But I was stuck at the post office for quite a few years.
And Paul met one of his very best friends, Andy Hardy, when he was working at the post office.
This was way before the band. Paul had his, his side parting and his little kind of coloured quiff in his hair, which he refused to remove. He was told by managers in the post office to get rid of the purple stroke pink quiff in his hair, which Paul refused to get rid of. So for that, he was punished and dispatched from where he was working to where I was working, and that's kind of where we met. Fridays was our big day. Friday was payday, and back in the day, you wait anxiously for your wage packet to tip up on a Friday morning, about 10 o'clock, always paid in cash. The money would arrive and you'd all stand there rubbing your hands waiting for yours to be shouted out, and then we'd always head off to the pub. Friday afternoon was pub afternoon, so me and Paul, as soon as we got our wages, as soon as the clock struck 12, that was it, coats on, out of the door, up to the Bull's Head. Had a game of Space Invaders and various other things, usually 2 pints. 2 pints in those days when you first started drinking was a lot of alcohol, and we'd head back to the post office, always late on a Friday, and then go and hide somewhere.
I love that job though. I delivered telegrams.
Really? Naked?
Not naked, but my claim to fame is I delivered the last telegram in the northwest of England.
Did you?
Then the day after it was scrapped.
Who was it to? Can you remember?
I think it was making somebody redundant.
Oh, no, that's not very romantic, is it?
No, we had to do a lot of that, redundancy telegrams.
When me and Paul went out on our post office driving training, that was in the summer of 1981, just in the middle of the riots. It was kicking off everywhere. And I remember one day, the driving instructor said, "Where do you want to go today?" So we said, "Can we go to Liverpool?" Because it was kicking off in Toxteth then, you know what I mean, the place. So we thought, well, let's go to Toxteth and see what it looks like a couple of days after the place was kind of burnt down. And so we were driving up Upper Parliament Street. Me and Paul had been told off on numerous occasions by the driving instructor for misbehaving in the back of the car. We'd both, kind of pull faces at each other whilst the other one was driving, trying to put them off, doing all kinds of stuff, getting on his nerves. And I think we were driving up Upper Parliament Street, and finally the driving instructor completely lost it. He had a complete meltdown. Police vans everywhere, fire engines, ambulances everywhere, there was smoke everywhere. driving instructor just slammed the brakes on the car, leapt out of the car, runs round. Paul was driving at the time, runs round to Paul's side of the car, pulls the door open, grabs Paul out of the car, yanks him out of the car, takes him round, pins him on the bonnet, and he said, right, if you carry on messing about, I'm going to smash your face in. With that, chucks Paul on the floor, runs round to the other side, opens my door, drags me out, pulls me to the back of the car, pins me onto the boot of the car, and said, same goes for you. That sheepishly, we got back in the car. Not a word was spoken. Me and Paul, lips trembling like that, all the way back to Manchester. Oh, it was hilarious. Hilarious. Yeah, we behaved after that.
What kind of television shows were you watching at this, other than Top of the Pops?
The Old Grey Whistle Test.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Sunday night.
Yeah.
My dad would go off.
Bob.
Yeah, my dad and mum would go off to the folk club, and we'd go round to Pat and Matt's house, my Auntie Mary's house, doing the record thing. But on Sundays, it was always the Old Grey Whistle Test.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and that was like a more mature Top of the Pops.
Yeah. It was quite prog rock, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of
Whistle
prog
Test.
rock.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Do you remember watching Tony Wilson on Garrard Reports and having an opinion about him?
I remember his TV show. Was it called So It Goes? Yeah, I remember him on So It Goes because he was having punk bands on.
Yeah.
That was around about the time punk was exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I didn't think, oh, I don't like him.
No, he was very flamboyant and a real maverick newsreader, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I remember him doing his show with his big long scarves on and stuff.
And he got sacked a couple of times for swearing on air.
Did he?
Yeah, but they always took him back because he was a great character.
He was amazing, wasn't he?
Great
amazing.
character.
Holidays, family holidays. Tell me about those.
Last 2 weeks in August, all the way through high school, the last 2 weeks in August, we always went to the same place, same caravan. That's Perranporth in Cornwall.
Yeah? And what kind of things did you do?
Well, when we first started going, I was only 11 years old.
Right.
So it was just a beach thing, and there's big waves there, so you could go bodyboarding.
Right.
So I did a bit of that. But by the time I was like 14, I still went on holiday with my parents, but I was going in the pub.
Really? At 14?
14, yeah.
With Shaun?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And did they know that you were drinking?
Yeah.
They didn't mind?
No, they didn't mind.
It was a pub garden, in the gardens, and him and Dave used to sneak a little shandy, I think.
Would you say that they were very kind of liberal parents for the time, or were they normal? Like, were they more liberal than regular parents, do you think, or not?
I think they was pretty liberal. They didn't drink when I was growing up. My parents never drank. It was only later on in life they both started drinking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they was pretty liberal. They just let us do what we was doing.
Do you think that they should have been more disciplined with you?
I don't think so, no.
No, it wouldn't. No. Maybe history would have been different.
Would have been very different.
Yeah. And how would you describe your relationship with your mum and dad?
Great. Really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Always?
Always really good, yeah.
And what about...
I think I tried leaving home when I was 12 because they wouldn't let me have a salamander.
What's one of those?
A lizard. I wanted a lizard and they said no, so I left home.
Paul decided he wanted a tropical lizard, and Derek said, no way, if you think we're keeping that lamp on and heating the thing up all the time, and what'll happen, your mother will end up looking after it, or I will, you are not having a tropical lizard. Right, I'm leaving home. So he gathered his washing off the maiden, the wet washing that was drying, got a little backpack, and Shaun came in and he said, I've just seen Paul with like a suitcase on his back. Where's he going, peddling like that? Oh, he's left home. He's gone to Nana's because he can't have a tropical lizard. Oh, anyway, it got to tea time and he came sneaking in. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, oh, I thought I might as well come home. He said, because they're only having chicks and eggs, so I've come home for my chicken dinner.
Paul and Shaun's volatile relationship has been well documented through the years.
You never knew which Shaun you was going to get. He can be nasty or he can be really cool.
I mean, when you think what they were like when they were younger.
Yeah.
And you never knew which one was going to come out.
What do you think decides whether it's the nasty one or the nice one?
I've no idea. I can't work his brain out.
No.
They were lovely, weren't they? And then all hell broke out, didn't it, when they were older?
Yeah.
Do you feel he's gone more extreme as he's got older?
Yeah. Yeah.
More extreme in what?
In his lies. More extreme in his stories, and it's difficult because I don't really hang out with him anymore. I don't. I only see him at shows.
Does that make you upset?
No.
Are you sure? I mean, he's your only brother, he's your only sibling, and you were very close when you were growing up. It must hurt you that you don't have a relationship with him now.
I just don't. It helps because I don't like the person he became.
Right.
I don't like who he is.
Do you hope that one day you'll reconcile and be friends again?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think he would feel if he got a call one day saying that you were dead?
I have no idea.
Come on, go there.
I have no idea what he'd think. I really don't know.
Okay, reverse that. How would you feel if you got a call?
I'd be sad, obviously. Be sad.
Right.
And that's about it.
For what, though? What would you be sad for?
That my brother was dead.
Right, because what would that mean?
There wouldn't be a chance to make up.
Right.
There we go.
So you do want to make up with him then?
I'm in no rush. I'm sure it'll happen. But if he died, it would be upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you never thought of, like, reaching out and trying to...
I've reached out to him a few times.
And?
His answer was, I don't want to know.
What did you say?
I can't remember.
Come on, what did you say?
I can't
yeah,
remember.
You can.
I can't. It's happened like 3 times and I'll never do it again.
I mean, you better kind of fill people in because people see you playing on the stage with him, and I'm sure they would assume that you and the rest of the band have some kind of relationship with him. Explain how that works.
Well, he doesn't travel with the band. He travels separate, which is great. It works out fine for all of us. He travels separate. Me, Gaz, Mark Day, Dan on keyboards and Ryder, we all travel together. And we just see Shaun 5 minutes before we go on stage.
And what about sound checks?
He's not done sound checks for 20 years.
Really? And what about after the shows? What happens then?
Well, usually we end the set with Rope for Luck, which kind of turns into a jam for 5 minutes. And he's off stage and out the door and in his car and gone while we're still playing.
Every single show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you say...
He thinks he's James Brown.
Do you say hello to him if you pass him, like, before the show? Like,
Sometimes I'll nod. Sometimes he'll nod. We don't really do eye contact.
Wow.
But once we're on stage, all that's forgotten. And the most important thing is doing the show.
What's your dynamic like on the stage?
It's okay. Yeah.
Didn't he used to hurl abuse at you?
Yeah, he doesn't do it anymore. Oh, he used to snide comments all the time.
Like what?
Well, the last one he did, he was calling me miserable and I never smiled. Right. So I took the microphone off him and I said, "You're just a cock."
Yeah.
And 20,000 people cheered.
I remember once he pulled a fake gun on you in a show that I was at. Remember he pretended
he wanted me to pretend to be shot and fall on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do that.
No.
No.
It's like...
But yeah, there was tension for years on stage. For years and years and years. in the early days there was tension, but I think that tension gave us an edge.
I was just going to say the same thing. I think without that tension, maybe you would be losing something. So maybe that tension is part of what makes the Mondays magic.
Yeah. I mean, the tension's not there anymore, but we're doing better shows.
Right. The tension is still there, because you're still not speaking.
That's true.
And what about his relationship with the other members of the band?
He gets on okay with everyone.
Does he speak to them, though? I mean, no, he's friendly with bears, but...
Friendly with bears, but he's friendly with everyone. We've all had our turn.
Yeah.
Rowetta's have been slagged off.
Yeah.
Gaz has. Mark Day. He's slagged us all off.
Yeah.
For many years, still doing it.
Yeah. Why won't he write an album with you? Oh, will he write an album with you?
Maybe that'll happen one day.
But why do you think it's not? I mean, you're constantly asked to do a new album.
Yeah, we're not even on the same book, never mind the same page. No. Maybe if we do a bit of healing between our relationship, then maybe an album might come out of it.
Right.
But up until then, it's just impossible to work with him.
Why is that?
Because he actually doesn't want me and Gaz involved in the music. He wants to do it all himself.
But he doesn't play any instruments.
I know. That's Shaun for you.
Right.
That's his latest.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, let's
move on.
Break on that one. I'm getting too hot again.
All right.
Have we done enough?
No, not quite.
Okay. Do a bit more. Let me have a cig and a piss. That got heavy. You got stuff out of it that no one got out of it.
I asked Andy Hardy, Paul's friend from the post office days, if he remembered the last time he'd seen him.
The last time, I do remember the last time I seen him, yeah. Yeah, I remember the last time I saw it.
You're setting me off.
The last time I saw him was September. God, when was that? Was it September 21? I think it was.
Right.
And he came over to do a Strawberry Studios thing at in Stockport. And when he came over, he said, "Oh, do you want to come to this thing with me that I'm doing?" It's a kind of, I think it's, I don't know, 25 years of Strawberry Studios, and he had to kind of give a speech. And they had bands on, people who worked in Strawberry Studios went there and said a few words on stage, and Paul being one of them. So I think he sent me a text message saying, "I'm doing this thing on a Tuesday night, do you want to come with me?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come with me." And then he turns around and says, "Oh, bring one of our other mates, Dave, with us." So me, Paul and Dave, Paul picked us up in the car, and then we went down to Strawberry Studios, had a few pints. Paul kind of got ushered off and had to kind of go down there on stage and everything and give his speech. Me and Paul went out for cigarettes, various outside, and had a kind of chat out there. Went back in for drinks, went out for fags, went in for drinks, and that was the last time I saw him. Never saw him again after that. But we had loads of good times. We had loads of good times. We had loads of fun, me and Paul. Loads of them. Just laughed about everything, laughed about everyone, took the piss out of everyone mercilessly. And had a great, it was a fantastic, we got on fantastically, me and Paul. And he was always the same throughout his life, fame, fortune. He was always the same guy. Oh, no airs and graces, no pretensions. He was a wonderful guy. Miss him so much.
Please join us again next week for some really special guests. We're going to be talking to Mark, Gaz and PD, the very original Mondays keyboard player, who is just brilliant. And of course, Linda and Sandra are going to be back. Here's a sneak preview. Is it difficult for you to talk about all of this?
Yeah, really difficult.
Why?
Because I'm more of a private person, and I don't like people knowing what I'm thinking. And I'm giving away a lot of stuff, so it's yeah, it makes me nervous.
He wants to look at crotchets and quavers on the stage. Sat there like Mozart, you know what I mean? Sat that.
Like he said, when he had his house in Crumsall, and there was these two old, there was in the post office, these three old, really old Jewish women with these big glasses, and he said, "Fucking hell, it's from DMC," and things like that, and he was just, and he was the funniest person I've ever met in my life.
We're playing out with the first single that was released from the Big Arm album, Flashbacks, which is soon going to be re-released. If you're watching this on video, see if you can spot our son Chico, who got caught in a shot carrying a tripod. It was a bit of a low-budget shoot, that one. Thanks so much for being here and helping to make this the #1 music podcast earlier this week in the UK. After our first recording session, Paul turned to me and asked if I thought anyone would be interested in what he had to say. So I just really wish he'd lived long enough to know that, yeah, they are. If you've not already done so, please give us a nice review and subscribe to our Glistening Stories YouTube channel. Go to the website at paulryder.tv for links to all the socials and to leave a voice note if you'd like to share a memory of Paul. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week. Bye. This project was brought to you by Glistening Productions. Cameras were by Richard Venti and Phil Smethers. Offline editing was Phil Smethers, Richard Hayward, Terence Holloway and Richard Venti. And online editing, also Richard Hayward. Titles were by Matt Carroll from Central Station. And the music, of course, is Paul Ryder and Big Arm. The associate producer is the lovely Sarah Walters, and it was produced and directed by Angela Smith. The executive producers are Angela Smith and M. Jacobi. Special thanks, of course, must go to Linda Ryder, Sandra Whelan, Andy Hardy, and of course, Bez. But of course, more than anything, big thanks to the absolute star of the show, the late, great Paul Ryder.
Listening Productions.
Oh, we stuffed them with carpets.
That's right. No, it was egg things. Egg cases. You know what you have your eggs in? All round everywhere. What the bloody hell have you done?